Uh, Hi everyone. This is Aravind Viswanath. This is the season one, episode two of the Spake Ara'thustra. The podcast today will be, as in Gautham, will be telling you about the topic at hand today. So, in front of me, I have Gautham Jayasurya. For everyone who watched the first episode, will be familiar with Gautham. And we have our very good friend, my college mate, Sandeep Suresh. So before further ado, I'll just uh, let Sandeep introduce himself to all of you. Sandeep, if you may.
Okay, thank you, Aravind. My name is Sandeep. I teach law at Jindal Global Law School. I've been teaching there for the last 7, 8 years. But besides, I've been following sports for a long period of time and playing one particular sport, that is football, for a considerable period of time. And yeah, both of them I've played with one and played against the other. So yes, good friends. Looking forward to yeah.
Hi, my name is Gautham, and I'm currently working as an HR manager at Accenture, and sports, like both of you, is very close to me. It's given me a certain sense of purpose in my life, both as a follower and as a player. So I still there are times when I still relive my I lie down and the happiest memories I have are when I play sports in my college and school. The camaraderie that I shared with my teammates, the good moments in which I was able to express myself through sports, and how I challenged myself, and eventually how I became a better person. So that's what sports is all about for me. So coming to today's topic, just before introducing the topic, I'm very glad that I'm doing this with Sandeep and Aravind, because one of the main reasons I met them, one of the main backdrops in which I met them is through sports. Both of them used to play for their colleges, respective post graduation, graduation colleges in law. They used to play for NLU Jodhpur, whereas I used to play for NLU Patiala. So I think that is one connection that binds all of us, and the love for football and other sports in general. I'm very honest to admit that they were a superior team, and I always used to look them in awe. The kind of the team dynamics they used to share, and the quality they used to possess, and yeah, that used to be a like a north star for us to as to how to play good football. So that's the I think that makes us all come together and do this podcast. Coming to the topic of the day, the topic of the day is GOAT, GOAT, greatest of all time as a concept in sports. Now, when I think of this, the earliest memories that I have is of looking at the Doordarshan screen, DD1 screen back in the 90s. Those technocolor broadcast from Sharjah, when Sachin used to carry single-handedly our Indian team, to different multinational tournaments, and we would be glued to the television and be wondering how can one person do all this all alone, right? How can somebody so young have so much talent, so much, and then back it up with the hard work also, and then carry the entire burden of the nation's hope, all on his shoulders. I think somebody said that when Sachin bats well, India sleeps well, and the market soar. So I think that has been the definition. He's the first person whom I identify as GOAT, and I did not know this term back then, but I knew that he meant somebody. He was somebody who occupied a bigger part of my mind. He was somebody who represent excellence for me. Somebody who gave it all. Somebody who represent the best amongst us, best amongst the people who play sports. So that's how my idea of GOAT evolved through that notion. And over the period of time, I realized that there is that what it meant to be GOAT, and how different people interpreted the idea of GOAT. For some, it represented hard work. For some, it represented pure talent. For some, it represented the in the age of social media, with the presence that the command and the influence they held among the people, the softer power they held among people. So it meant a lot. It now has a definition that not limited to one single definition. Um, so I just want to know from both of you, what has been the first memory? How did you identify goat as a concept? What came to your, what was the first person or an event that you attached with the concept of goat? Aravind, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I think for me, before I get into the technicalities and nuances of the concept, I think I would like to maybe add on how the concept was probably, came into being, as in the inception of the term. I think it started with like all sorts of concepts. Maybe I think it started with the US, and then it, started spreading across the world. I think it started exactly when, with boxing, with Muhammad Ali, the boxer. So
Yeah.
uh, I think it was his wife that basically who started calling himself, referring to him as the goat, and then it just caught on like wildfire because I think the press saw something marketable in that, something
Yeah.
brandable in that. The term, it was, it was very easy on the tongue, and it just rolled off. So this was a very marketable trend that was probably started off. I don't think it was his wife that started it, but it was around that period, and then it got on to basketball, the early 90s when Michael Jordan was playing. But for me, when Gautam, you ask about the concept of GOAT, I have seen many, many gifted players across sports and across, eras playing it out on the field and everything. But I think it's a very subjective concept for every. I don't think there's a universal GOAT for everyone. So for me, uh, that is my opinion to start it off. Maybe Sandeep has something else to add.
Yeah. So for me, the initiation into this entire discourse around goatship, let's put it that way, started with this entire popular debate about Messi versus Ronaldo. It's in that context that I got to hear about it for the first time. So it was not really a widespread debate about, okay, here is a larger pool, let's see who's the goat out of that. But it was the contest between two, right? Which made the point which Aravind said about the subjectivity element a little more pronounced in that discussion. But having said that, yeah, it's in this context that I got an idea about this entire discussion. But for me, particularly as a player and as a kid who started watching football and then other sports, never really identified with the concept of great. I only always had favorites, right? My favorite sports person even now is David Beckham, purely because he's the first player that I saw kicking a ball across the field, and that sort of got me into football, right? That of course cannot be associated with the bestest of the abilities per se, but for me it's always been favorites in that sense. And I never associate with goat as an idea, uh, particularly because even let's say to a different context, when you support a football club, let's say, right, and I've been supporting Manchester United since I watched football. But even at the peak time, when in mid of 2000s, when Jose Mourinho came to Chelsea, I used to love the way Chelsea played football, even though I was supporting United. I love the way Liverpool played football under Klopp. I love the way under Pep Barcelona played. So for me, it's all about I like to treat each of them on their own merit and see whether I relate to that. So that's where I kickstart with it. Yeah.
So yeah, so both of you have very different perceptions about goat. For you, Sanbi, it's about having a few set of favorites, And perhaps that's how you sort of look at the concept of goat. For Aravind, for that for you, it's more nuanced. You take into consideration multiple different aspects. Coming to those aspects, in generally in popular parlance, there are a few things that constitute that come into the making of a goat. One is obviously the raw talent, right? How how much a person possesses that talent. We have heard that being spoken widely about, let's say, a Messi or a Sachin. Like how as a even as a teenager, or even further in the younger age, they were spoken very highly. They started showing signs of extraordinary talent, right? So that's one aspect, right? And then the second aspect is the hard work, like how much they put in, how much they evolve as a years, which is very well spoken about Ronaldo also, having been gone through different phases of his life, having sustained so many difficult so many injuries, and how overcome that. And same with Nadal also, right, to some extent. So that's the second aspect. And the third aspect is the impact, the cultural impact it had on the sport, how a certain player has come in and it's changed the way it is played. Like it often is, Vivian Richards is spoken in cricket about how he has changed the way the sport is being played, right? So that cultural impact, even Michael Jordan, he changed the way basketball was looked at, how even the whole commercial side of it started expanding with this arrival. And the statistical dominance, right? The sheer numbers that backs a certain person, right? Like, for example, Don Bradman, his 99.96 is a stuff of legends. And then, of course, the intangibles, like, what I mean by intangibles is how much the person is being talked, right? In popular sport, sorry, in popular media. For example, LeBron James or Stephen Curry, those people occupy in the popular sport because they're also marketable in certain sense, right? So among these aspects, which one? I mean, I know, Sandeep, you mentioned it's a favorite, personal favorite, but still, if you do have in your mind, what is these among these factors? What are these? Which of these factors are closest to you, these factors doesn't matter at all for you guys?
For me, to begin with the last points that you mentioned, right? Like the way, the word that you used was intangibles, right? Like how much
Yeah,
are they talked about? Uh, Not at all a relevant factor for me, especially because of the other word that you use, marketability, right? Because of the
yeah,
commercialization in every field, not just in sports. That's become the domain that is narrative created by certain groups, certain interest groups, or certain vested groups. So therefore, I do not fall for that. I do not buy that at all, right? Today, yes, you talk about Messi, Ronaldo, or you talk about another group of players. There are other players who show immense talent, which is not recognizable. But recognizable does not equate to that it is not being there.
yeah,
And that's one common point that I always try to sort of emphasize. And that I associate how marketability and commercialization has overoccupied the sporting intelligence of the viewers, not just of the
yeah,
players, but also of the viewers. Uh, I always think of it, right? Like when a Messi or any Pele or Ronaldinho, whosoever, they dribble with the ball sticking to their feet and moving in nimble ways, and then finally the ball hitting the net. It's easily capturable by your naked eye. But when a central defender, let's say most importantly, centre back, identifies the movement of a play across the field 2-3 seconds before the actual ball reaches his zone, and then accordingly positions either himself or herself there, or along with the line of the entire defense as a captain there, you have prevented a goal. Now, this cannot be captured by the eye, right? I mean, unless you very, clinically observe the sport, which at least all of us have done at one stages of our life, certain stages of our life. I have done that. Only then you will realize the talent that you need to sort of read the game in that way, right? Uh, that skill will not be easily marketable. That
yeah,
skill, because it's not marketable, because it cannot be explained easily.
yeah, yeah,
It cannot be shown with a video clip. You know, in
yeah,
the age of reels or what shorts or whatever we call it, These are not, items that can be sort of captured by the eye. Therefore,
Yeah.
those skills which a Messi or a Ronaldo or a Ronaldinho may not possess is not part of the entire discourse on of goats or the bestest or the greatest or whatever it is. So that's where I stand on the, the talkability of all of this. Not at all a factor. Of course, it has to be the talent, the not just the talent, but also the display of the talent, consistency, talent, skills, and consistency is are the three factors that one can consider. Not for the discussion of goat, but for the discussion of the, the list of the greatest that one can pull in. That's where I stand.
Got it. Got it. Arvind, you have a say
Aravind,
in this.
Yeah, I think more than how, as in what means to me while talking about the goat discourse, I can probably say, having worked in sports over the last few years, I can easily say that it's a very stat driven market. Like statistics is what really sells now. Like for example, when you see goat discourses, you see number of goals, number of assists, and other than this nothing really sells. Like Sandeep correctly pointed out, no one really talks about how, defenders block out goals, maybe how goalkeepers save, and even when goalkeepers save, there is a save percentage that might not be, like for example, someone who plays for Liverpool and someone who plays for Southampton, the currently the 20th, the well, of course the Southampton goalkeeper would be having to make more saves, right? So the save percentage will probably be higher with the Southampton goalkeeper. That doesn't mean the other goalkeeper, his he's an inferior goalkeeper. The same way, I think with stats, the GOAT concept has also got more to do with aesthetics. Like, for example, people like Roger Federer, Lionel Messi, Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, they are all easy on the eye. Like, when people talk about Federer and Messi, they say, raw talent, God gifted. But when they talk about Rafael Nadal or Cristiano Ronaldo, they always say hard work. And that is, of course everyone has worked hard. It's not like Messi and uh, Federer haven't worked hard, and it's not like Nadal and Ronaldo don't have talent. It's a blend of beautiful
playing
blend of both
styles.
worlds. And generally when you say things, as in, it's not exactly demeaning, but you know how the discourse gets started, and it's of course a deliberate ploy from the ones who market that the topic of discussion should be around, certain of all these things. The engagement needs to start like that for them to make money. And for me, there is one more thing. Like, just I recently came across a LinkedIn post. Uh, just it was basically based on observing from a neutral vantage point as to why Jasprit Bumrah doesn't really get endorsements. He does get a few endorsements, but
Yeah.
he is by far the best bowler in the world currently. Take that out, he still is the best player, Indian player. He has been the best Indian player for many years now. That I
I
don't think
agree.
is debate. It can be put to debate, but there is no point debating it. We all have seen we have all seen him like donning the India colors. We all know what he does for the country. But if you compare that with the endorsements, someone like Rohit Sharma or Virat Kohli, or even someone like Mahendra Singh Dhoni, someone who has been off the sport for so many years, Rishabh Pant, Hardik, all these people get endorsements, and they all get more endorsements than someone like Jasprit Bumrah. Why? It's a simple fact that he's a bowler. And you can equate that to what Sandeep said about being a defender. And that is why there's a fundamental issue with GOAT and the commercial, brandability or marketability. That's my 2 cents about this for now.
Got it. So on that, I have, as we were speaking about these things, it just came to my mind that you were talking about statistics, and it clicked me that we are living in an era where the technology is able to capture every single move a person is making, a player is making. There is so much of data, like there are websites that provide that data. There are, even in broadcasting, you get to see that data. So, and there used to be a time when none of this was available. Not even sports was not even televised. All right, it was a very elite, privileged set of people only get to do that, right? And coming to and fast forward to now, when you have so much of data around you, uh, is there a pattern of over analyzation, over analysis, and the idea of goat becomes purely drawn to numbers, purely reduced to numbers, right? Like, uh, can you, so that also is linked to how the sports has evolved. For example, cricket used to be played in uncovered pitches where batting used to be far difficult, right? And there used to be less restrictions on bowling bouncers, no helmets whatsoever. With the, in limited overs there is only single ball use, so there is a reverse swing coming in. There's so much of factors, right? That defined, sometime defined an era that was played
Correct.
some time back. Whereas after now, things have changed. Grounds have become smaller. Two new balls being used. Right, and then so question becomes, even if one, my question is, are we at the risk of being overanalyzed, and is it leading to, is a definition being reduced to pure numbers? Who scored the highest goals? Who got the maximum assist? Who scored the maximum runs? Right, those kind of numbers. Number two, is it fair to, let's say, even compare and determine, go into that debate where which person, two people who belong to different era, who has a better, who would have been a better player, or who can be regarded as goat? What is your take on that, Sandeep? You want to start?
Yeah, no, I agree with you that, see, even within the current a particular generation, or even within a sport, even within a first 11, if there are these multiple factors in terms, I mean, talking about team sports to begin with, if there are multiple factors that affect the playing styles or the role in a particular 11, etc., forget the other dimensions that will come in when you say the cross generational differentiations, right? Therefore, absolutely, there is no point in sort of discussing what you would not have, what you do not have a full capturing of. This is not like, of course, this is not like, today's certain directors or actors saying that if you don't know editing, don't criticize editing. That's not what I mean. But the point is, sport gets played across these various dimensions which cannot be captured in numbers, right? Even today, as I said, the point that I made in the beginning is, even in today's technology, you cannot capture it, right? So therefore, yeah, for me, every generation produces, certain cream. Of course, that is one analysis that could be possible. That cream of each generation can be ascertained, and they can be sort of kept at a pedestal in that sense. But cross generational comparisons will falter, not particularly because even in a particular generation it cannot be done, then therefore for that very reason itself cross generational comparisons I don't think is feasible.
Fine. Arvind, what is your take on this?
If I may just add one more point
Yeah,
to that, era before you
yeah, yeah,
come in. Initially, as one factor you had mentioned about impact, right?
yeah.
Impact on the way the sport is played. Let's take a Messi today, and a comparable player from the previous generation was Johan Cruyff.
Yeah.
Messi played under a system that was influenced by Cruyff. So, in that sense, if today somebody says Messi is GOAT, in terms of impact, you cannot even compare to the impact that Johan Cruyff would have had over the last several decades, not years.
Yeah.
So again, these are, no. Does that mean Cruyff was the GOAT? No, not at all. Right? They have to be recognized for each of their individual impact, their own individual assets. For each specific descriptions and specific appreciations have to be made. That's all, and specific critique. Yeah. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, so for me, like Sandeep aptly said, uh, I completely get it when people try to make it like a two horse race, like Messi, Ronaldo, LeBron's
Sachin
F12,
Lara.
yeah, Sachin Lara. It was there, like I said, the Muhammad Ali versus there was Joe Frazier
Joe Frazier.
at that time also. It used to be there. Uh, a lot of these discourses always, they only wrongly project uh, like two people as the end game, or to summarily conclude as to whether the goat concept is relevant only for these two people, like the others just simply don't matter. And that we all know that is not the case. Like for example, like to take a minor subset of the view, like I'm talking about like having a very narrow uh, mindset is like taking a narrow myopic view. I can basically say Messi, Ronaldo, both contemporaries, both attacking players. But at that time, can do do people like Manuel Neuer, or do people like Chiellini, Giorgio Chiellini, do they come into the picture? No, exactly. Why? Because it's again the brandability, marketability factor, and it's a classic case of fan engagement. Uh, I think to basically put it across as a battle between two people is kind of demeaning to, like, we all have been very serious sports watchers, and we all know that there is no singular greatest of all time in most team sports. In probably all team sports, I don't think there is a greatest of all time, unless you take a look at all stats and say these stats are the ones that describe. But right now there is nothing like that. There's no scientific uh, basis for any of these. There is no singular metric that basically says, this is how you become a goat. There is nothing like that. Right now, it's all subjective. So, how do we basically, uh, and again, like Sandeep and I think Gautam, you also pointed out, there are a lot of intangibles in this. The tangibles are basically, make you raise your eyebrows. Like, is this actually what makes one person a goat? And these are all, uh, serious questions that need to be raised. But as of now, a lot of people, it's uh, ruled by bias. Like Sandeep pointed out, like his uh, favorite player is David Beckham. But for a lot of people, the favorite players, as in we, I think fortunately we were born in the era of the early and late 90s. Born in the early 90s when we actually had the opportunity to see, a lot of gifted players when defending in football. I'm talking about football right now. When defending was seen to be more difficult, and at that time there were a lot of gifted strikers also, so you saw more, maybe the science of defending and everything was at a higher level. And at that time you uh, see a lot of these players, and there were more candidates right now. And we haven't just seen Messi, Ronaldo. A lot of these, the Gen Z's have been used to only seeing Messi, Ronaldo, and maybe they don't see someone like Haaland, or maybe Eden Hazard. So these people, they don't come into the fray at all. Like when Messi and Ronaldo go, will these people come up with another set of players that fit the bill of a goat? One can only imagine. So for me, it's like that. It's But in sport, it is always there. The chess. I forgot his name, as in the Bobby Fischer
Magnus Carlsen.
and
Okay, yeah.
Bobby Fischer and the
Fisher.
I forgot the
Kasparov.
Russian's name. It
Kasparov.
was there.
Kasparov, yeah.
Kasparov.
was it Kasparov or it was, I think, someone else. I forgot. And maybe only in very very select circumstances did was there only uh, one person in the fray for like a particular sport. Like say in athletics, Usain Bolt was the only person mentioned, or maybe in swimming, Michael Phelps was the only person mentioned at that point in time. But for everything else, there will always be, Coley de Villiers or Coley Smith or Joe Root. Maybe someone in football, there's of course Messi, Ronaldo. But before that, there was Zidane and the Brazilian Ronaldo. So yeah, the two horse race does exist, like Gautham said, but it is only because of fan engagement. When the numbers rise up, it's simply not possible to, uh, create that competitiveness among fans. It has to be two people, and that is why I think it exists.
Yeah, I think the two people theory, right? It kind of takes me back to an article that I read on Djokovic. And in the article, the core of the article was this, that Djokovic is perhaps the one of the unique players who has all the rights to be called as a GOAT, but yet hated widely for multiple reasons, right? Yet has a lot of haters, a lot of people who doesn't agree with his views, his stance. So it got me thinking. Goat has also a lot to do with the perception, or the rather than your playing style or the performances or the records that you hold, but also about how you are perceived among in the larger public. What kind of personality you are? Are you kind of an in your face, abrasive, aggressive
Correct.
personality like Andre Agassi, or Djokovic, or are somebody very nice, well mannered like Roger Federer, to some extent Messi, to some extent Sachin Tendulkar, right? Whereas people like Virat Kohli, or there are people like Ronaldo, who are very opinionated, who doesn't hold back in sharing their opinion in the public, who take stance very strongly. Um, so that could be a big factor.
Absolutely.
What do you think about that? Is there have you ever looked at your own favorites in that perspective, from that lens, or have you stayed away from that and say, look, I'll only view their in sport persona. I will not consider their public persona or their private persona. And yeah, that's about it. Has it been for you like that, or?
For me, yes. I always only look at the performance on the field, and not just on the field. When I say the field, of course, there are certain related professional, conduct just outside the field also. In that sense, for all of those aspects, do not come in the fray for me to determine who is one of the best or the greatest of different generations. It has to be the impact on the field and related professional aspects, because otherwise marketability and other things are so subjective, and the biases come in, and which is something you can't really bring into and use to sort of demean other players, and in terms of their impact.
Yeah.
Because if you try to go into the personal side of it, there are n variables that will come into play, that then you will become subjective, then you will become arbitrary in the way you make your choices and all of that. So for me, it is a no-go zone in that sense, to determine their
Yeah.
ability. And also, apart from these two dynamics that you mentioned, of the nice boy and the nice person, and the sort of straightforward, open the face, right? There is another category, which is the unremarkable, right? For example, somebody who I consider as the best defender, and that's a point of discussion that I would like to sort of take it maybe later if time permits. That if not simply without any qualification say the greatest of all time, is there a scope to sort of say greatest as far as that particular position is concerned when it comes to a team sport,
Yeah.
or when it comes to a particular role? And in that sense, I consider Paolo Maldini as the one of the best defenders that I've seen in terms
Yeah.
of the various skills that he has. So a person like Maldini is not your typical sort of the nice person that you will see. but he also not like a Cristiano Ronaldo or a Virat Kohli. Yes, there is aggression on the field, but otherwise there is not that imagery that you will find for somebody like Maldini. But look at the number of skills that he can perform on the field, right? Name more defenders that can do this of tackling a person, tackling the attacker, and still retaining the possession of that ball most of the times that he does. Right, I remember tackling people when the ball will go for the throw in, right, or it
Yeah,
ends
yeah,
up resulting in a, not just with me, even other professional
yeah,
football
yeah,
players
yeah,
can only do that, and even today, the defenders today, that is equivalent, or if not more important than what a Messi does with the various beautiful things that he does with the ball, right? And all of that. So yeah, the unremarkable Maldini will sort of fade off from the discussion regarding all of
yeah,
this. Or somebody like Maldini will also go off the radar because statistics don't side
yeah,
with him. He
yeah,
has never
yeah,
won a national, I mean, international trophy with Italy, if I'm correct about the stats. Or maybe he has only just won very negligible number of trophies.
yeah,
So, yeah, the unremarkable personality also goes off the radar.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ara, you have a take on this?
Yeah, I think like Gautham you correctly pointed out, uh, the Djokovic thing as an objectively, if you like look at it, we all three of us have seen Federer first, and then Nadal, and then Djokovic. Like, of course, initially there was the Federal rivalry, and once uh, Federer's quality just waned off a bit, then there was Djokovic in the
Without.
mix as well. It's not. I'm not saying that Djokovic was not there at all when Federer was in his prime as well, but then for a long, long time, it was just the three of them, and maybe sometimes Andy Murray or like Stanislas Wawrinka, or maybe the occasional brilliance of Juan Martin Del Potro. So, public perception does matter. The world generally likes well behaved, like very less spoken gentlemen. And that is, for some reason, these people are the ones who are billed as aesthetically pleasing as well. I don't know if there is a correlation, but it might be a very big coincidence. But public
Yeah.
perception generally matters because when, say, a Ronaldo or a Virat Kohli speaks out, or Andre Agassi, it divides the opinion, right? It can, you either agree with them, or you either say, it's very bullish, it's a very cocky opinion. We can't really agree with that. So for the narrative, also this one helps out. Like, not like a David versus Goliath situation, but on one side is the gentleman, on the other side is like the challenger who criticizes the system and everything. And say, for example, uh, right now the discussion has boiled down to very mundane things. I don't think serious uh, watchers, sport watchers, should even actually bother about the GOAT system. There are enough people who believe in this, who actually subscribe to this view, myopic view, for me, in my book, that a GOAT concept should exist and does exist. Like, if you remember, there was a match. I think 1 2 years back, or maybe I don't remember. I think 1 2 years back in Riyadh, between All Star 11 from the Saudi Pro League and PSG. So, of course, we all know the reason why that match was held. It was because it was an ultimate Messi versus Ronaldo showdown. Maybe there might be more of those, as of course, their careers are coming to an end. And on social media, it was always, this is the end. So once this match was over and the results were in, as in the result was in, of course, you can put an end to the GOAT debate. And that was how as if one match decides everything. And you are basically deciding the GOAT, the greatest of all time. For me, I have a fundamental I have a fundamental disagreement with the concept, because Even if you take football, for example, there's a person like Sandeep pointed out Paolo Maldini's case. I would like to point out a person called Lev Yashin. Lev Yashin was a celebrated goalkeeper, and I think it was in the 1960s or something. He was the erstwhile USSR Soviet Union's goalkeeper. He's still till date he remains the only goalkeeper to have won the Ballon d'Or. Right
Oh,
now we see Ballon d'Or instances where only striker attackers get Ballon d'Ors. Long are the days when maybe like defenders used to get a Ballon d'Or. We have seen that, but like midfielders or defenders or goalkeepers getting Ballon d'Ors is not something we regularly see. For sure, goalkeepers we don't see because Lev Yashin is the only example in recorded human history.
I thought Oliver
While
Kahn did. No, but maybe I could be wrong. Like,
Oliver Kahn, I think got nominated, but I don't think
oh,
he
okay,
got the award. Yeah, he didn't get
okay,
the award.
okay.
Yeah,
But
he did.
so how can we actually, when we compare, this is not something you asked about public perception, but now that I'm on a rant, I would like to add this also. Uh, how can, if you say Lev Yashin, for anyone who says Lionel Messi is the greatest of all time, and first of all, how can you compare an attacker to a goalkeeper? When you say greatest of all time, it has to include a goalkeeper as well, right? Into the mix, the discussion, a goalkeeper also needs to be considered for that. How can you compare someone, first of all, who played in a different position and someone who played in a different era? And the same way,
Similar in cricket with fast bowlers and
Yeah,
batsmen.
yeah, similar in cricket
batsman.
with bowlers and batsmen as well. Maybe I think I wouldn't even dare to basically say that someone like Sachin or Virat Kohli is the best, because why Indian players generally are put into the mix, because India has the most fandom, so someone from an Indian team has to be in the mix. But how can we have only seen Vivian Richards' highlights? The man played in an era where there were no helmets.
Yeah,
Fast bowlers
Yeah,
were
what
speeding in.
was
In an over, there was no bouncer restriction. You could bowl six bouncers. There's no issue. And at that time, for someone to have played such fearless cricket and to have played in such, tense matches, but I still wouldn't say Vivian Richards is the GOAT. People always mix favorites with GOATs, but that is the issue. So ultimately, we have to realize that it's a concept that makes the sport earn a lot of money, and that is why it's there. Maybe it will stand its test of time, and maybe in like 20 years or something, it will be a whole different concept, because when the fans will ultimately get tired of this,
yeah,
and that is where some new concept will come, and we'll be discussing about that maybe.
yeah.
But
Got it.
public
Yeah,
perception does matter for sure. it
sure.
it is a part of the
just a
narrative.
small question in between this. Like Virat Kohli came in reference quite a few times, right? But I don't see him being sort of discarded, right? He's still considered like he's called the
The
king. He's called
Fab Four or something. Yeah,
yeah. He's still in the in the positive side of discussions about if at all
yeah,
about GOAT or Fab Four or things like that. A very very
Yeah,
specific question, maybe.
that
yeah,
yeah, but if you of course he is considered there. He is considered as the goat also in the goat discussion. But the same thing applies to someone like Cristiano Ronaldo as well. He's also very bullish. He gives Piers Morgan interviews, but he's of course right there in the mix. But general perception for GOAT is that I think Djokovic is also like public perception does matter in billing someone as the GOAT, is what I'm saying. I don't think it is the only thing
Got
that
it.
matters.
right.
In
Yeah,
Djokovic,
And
and
that
yeah,
yeah. Sorry.
no,
Go,
no,
go.
no, no, nothing. I just wanted to say in Djokovic's case, it is there is an added factor also, because he's someone that came in as the challenger to the Federal rivalry. a lot of people didn't like that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
generally, he is a crusader that challenges the system, like someone who still has not got vaccinated, and who, he got quarantined when he went to Australia. Someone who has got a record number of Australian opens. So he's someone who's got affected by the system at large. So in
Yeah,
his
that's
situation, I think it matters more.
yeah, that's what I have. See, if you observe all my points, largely it comes from the sport that I played, and largely it is based on team sports. So, any thoughts on, like, can we create a distinction in the discourse of GOAT, dependent on whether it is team sport and
Yeah.
individual sport? Any thoughts on that?
I think it's very important to do that because, like I said, it reminds me of an incident, personal incident that I had in back in college. So back in college, when football teams used to be made, uh, the first name on the list always used to be a striker. Who will score, and people always wanted to be a striker for the very reason that they would get all the limelight, their names on the goal sheet for so many other reasons. Because in India, at least, I don't know at that point, maybe at a school level, at a college level, everyone used to understand the nuances of the sport in the sense that what each position would signify, how they contribute to the whole team. Maybe they people weren't that matured enough. So often I used to there were instances where I used to play as a defender, and I would think that I had a great day. I had a brilliant day where I would tackle and get possession and supply the balls and so on. But and the team would win. Obviously, played well, but there would be so much talk about the goal, there's so much talk about the build up to the goal, but not even a single conversation around how well the defenders have played, how well supply happened in the midfield, how well the wingers have played, how well the goalkeeper has made a clean sheet. So that always used to occupy my mind. Why aren't conversation happening? Why only about certain positions that attract a lot of attention? So to your point, I think it's a very relevant point. Team sport, differentiating between team sport and differentiating between individual sport. But at least in individual sport, I think like tennis, you control the variables. You are the
Yeah.
single owner of your outcomes. Of course, there are other variables like external factors, the surface in which you're playing, and the rackets you're using, and all that is there. But again, that to some extent, the choice of your equipment all in your control itself. So I think there should be a distinction. There should be a clear distinction between, let's say, a team sport and individual sport. The team sport ultimately is a contribution of a lot of seen and unseen activities that contribute to one single outcome, which is attributed to one person's name. So I side with you, Sandeep, and I think we should always, as much as possible, segregate these code debates into team sport, individual sport, even eras, in different eras, different goats. And on that I want to ask a couple of questions. I know we are nearing time, so I'll make a couple of points. One point I want to ask is, does goat debate has a lot to do with the number of contenders for that playing in that given period? For instance, like Aravind was pointing out, at one point you had, including Andy Murray, four people contending for that spot, or at least at various points, at various stages of that. Some would be regarded closer to that the title than the rest. But Djokovic, Nadal, Federer, Andy Murray, so does it also to do with the era that you're playing? The definition of God. If you have an era, if you are in an era like Usain Bolt, where you don't have a lot of people competing for that title, perhaps you have an edge over the others. Like Tiger Woods, for instance. Maybe I'm ignorant in that sport, but I could only think of that person's name, Michael Schumacher
Yeah.
at that point. But right now you have, it's more democratized, right? Like there is a lot more people competing for that. Do you
Yeah.
see that as one of the variables somewhere?
Yeah, which is why I will not really have much. I mean, there could be, but for the sake of argument, I'll really not have much objection if I hear, okay, Usain Bolt is the goat, versus when somebody says, okay, Roger Federer is the goat. I'll have more problems on the latter statement than the former statement, right? So of course, right, those dynamics will add to the discussion, is what I think, primarily. Yeah.
Arvind, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think For example, if you take like a team sport like football at the end of the day makes the most money. Like I think the World Cup final is watched more than maybe a lot of even I might be wrong, but the football World Cup final is the most watched event in the world probably. And at that time, that's why I think football, the dynamics, how it is being more inclusive, because of that to put interest, and that is why the code concept is there. It's something that makes it sells tickets. And if one of the players who is in the reckoning plays in that match, of course you see on Instagram the goat arrives on the field today. So these sort of Instagram social mini battles and everything, they generate a lot of traction online, and that is why it's there. But to basically come to your point, I think in individual sports generally, though you can't see a lot of of course you can probably dare enough to say that Rafael Nadal is the best player you've seen on clay,
Clay.
because of the sheer
Yeah.
dominance that one person has had. But of course, can you
Consistency.
actually say that conclusively? Because someone like Bjorn Borg has also won a lot of French Opens, and that was at a time when it was also severely contested. The rackets were different. Like in case of someone like what's that guy's name? The Rod Laver. Rod Laver used to play with wooden rackets, and he has also won a lot of Grand Slams. So can you actually say uh, someone like Djokovic or Federer is better than Rod Laver? And if you say Grand Slams, the number of Grand Slams is the criterion. There is no one who has got more Grand Slams than someone like than Martina Navratilova. She has got 59 Grand Slams. I don't think it will
Right.
ever be eclipsed that record. Of course, it includes doubles and mixed doubles as well, but the stats also have to make sense. I think more than that, maybe yeah. In golf, I only know like select few people. So Tiger Woods was always in the goat debate. Someone like Michael Schumacher, when that was a time when I used to regularly watch F1, and at that time when Fernando Alonso came over, he was a challenger. And then now Lewis Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel came along somewhere along. Now there's Max Verstappen. The people will come along, and the goat debate has been it. Initially in the early 90s and the early 2000s, the goat uh, narrative had not really got on to the subcontinents for sure. It was not there. People, I think, just used to genuinely like watch sports and be enthralled by that.
Yeah.
But now I think as this it's rapidly expanding, and you need new viewers to come into the mix. This probably I think it's also about age. I will not be like an uncle and say it's all the Gen Z people and everything. There are enough people in our eras, our age group, that also consume this
Yeah,
goat
which is why it is not
narrative.
about a generation. It includes all age groups. It's about the age of materialism, right? Like the more material the age, not the generations. The more material the world becomes, you will associate with such terms or such numbers or money or whatever it is. So yeah.
And also more than that, I think there is, of course, there was the era when Pele used to play football, and then I think 10 years later or somewhere around was the time when Maradona came in. There are so many people in that generation who would be fighting about as to who is the better player between Pele or Maradona. And then, of course, someone like Cruyff was also in the mix, who revolutionized football with his total football philosophy, which got extended to a lot of Barcelona philosophies as well, and including La Masia teaching style. But yeah, but what I would like to ask you guys, as in, Gautham has been asking, as in putting across the uh, thought and been asking around. I would like to ask you guys, when Michael Jordan used to play for Chicago Bulls, there's a person called Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen at
Hmm.
least is remembered as one of the teammates, but
Yeah.
none of those. A lot of people don't know about the rest of the people in that
Yeah.
time at all. Do you
Rodman,
think in
right?
this goat? Do you think in this goat debate, these like Sandeep's word, the unremarkable people get missed out, and that is an insult,
Yes.
and
Absolutely.
that's a huge insult to the other players. Like someone who, for a lot of people who have put in the equal amount of hard work, maybe possess the equal amount of talent as well. Some people do miss out, and do
Yeah.
you think that is an insult to the rest of the people? uh, in this goat, in the whole white noise of goat, do you think that is a huge disservice to these people, the unremarkable people?
I think so. And immediately what I can recall is when Sachin used to hog all the limelight. How Rahul Dravid used to go under the scanner, right? He would play all the gritty innings. He would eventually make the biggest wins we remember of India outside of home. All came through Dravid's contributions. So I think you are right there. Even right now, even in our even the biggest wins that we've had in cricket in the last 10 years, everything came down to few players like Pujara, who may not be as flashy as Virat Kohli or other contemporaries, but still got the job done. But yet got ignored. Yet didn't get the recognition he deserved. Um, and yeah, I think that's a common thing as well. Even in football, like Sandeep was saying, you had the likes of defenders like Maldini, Carlos, Puyol, Cannavaro, all those people who contributed to the wins, but yet weren't the poster boys of their own sports. I think um, the the so-called the unremarkable underachiever, so to say, will always be there. I think it's important for fans to, as fans, as genuine followers of the sport, to spare a moment for them and perhaps come bring their names into the popular conversation. That's our role. That's our role, I strongly think, because there'll be always be fanboys. So fanboys and fan clubs will do their role of promoting their heroes, of those so-called marketable sports persons. That their I think their presence in the popular narrative will never be questioned. But these unsung heroes, it's our job as enthusiastic as sports enthusiasts to bring them in and to talk about them. And that's my take on this. As much as possible, write about them, speak about them, include them in the conversations. So yeah, that's what we can do, right? Sandeep, what about you?
Yeah, I completely agree. But it's an absolute shame, that giving. And I generally, outside of sports, also, I generally don't like these titles for anything. Father of the nation, architect of the constitution. It's a general human psychology to assert these titles, and invariably, unconsciously or consciously, there are conscious situations where it results in direct neglect of the other deserving, candidates, not for the title, but deserving of acknowledgement, deserving of praise, etc. Absolutely, definitely yes. Even Gautam, you also mentioned about your college team. Even in NLU Jodhpur, of course, it's a different standard and platform of discussions.
Yeah.
Wherever for fun, we keep discussing. There are a few names that comes up. Now, when it comes to our team, at least the 5 6 years, those years where I was present, the most impactful player has been our goalkeeper.
Hmm. Yeah.
Nobody else.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah.
else. Whatever gold or silver that we won is because of.
I
Uh,
disagree. It is this person who is speaking.
I have seen him play. I mean, I was just thinking of that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I see
yeah.
all both of you play and how wonderful players you are, and I played with you also outside as well. So yeah.
No,
So
no. My take is that our goalkeeper has been the most impactful player. So if some title has to be given to him, has to be given, it has to be to him.
yeah.
But yeah, that will probably not be generally accepted. So yeah, I mean, So it's better. So therefore it is better to just have your list of favorites, have your list of, your basket of players that you enjoy, or your basket of managers that you enjoy, that philosophies. And in my platter, I love a Mourinho and a Guardiola.
Right.
I have individual points on which I appreciate their strategies, but today both are at the opposite ends of spectrum. Uh, I enjoy that side of sport, to have my collective list of, the good players that I've seen. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's like, as somebody say, it's like having a veg sadhya and versus
Mm.
having a hardcore chicken biryani, right? It's that kind of experience that we have when it comes to the debates on goat. And
Yeah.
we are nearing to the close of our conversation.
And
Yeah.
a sport like football is veg sadhya with a fish fry and a chicken fry together. So why?
Yeah, totally. So as we are going to conclude this call, I just want to hear some final thoughts on from your side, a quick forward looking thoughts. How do you see this debate evolving? How much of the role a technology is playing? Because as recent as yesterday, I was listening to a news where it says Nike has introduced this kind of a shoe. It's called, like, the exact model I can't recall. It's called something called Vapor, where it gives you that extra push when you're running. For long distance runners, they have the sole which gives you that extra push, and that reduces. And they did a bit of experimentation with the world class runners, and apparently a lot many seconds people finish running so many at a very shorter time, shaving off so many seconds from the world record of that distance they were running. So the question again is of technology. How much technology is going to play a part in the future when it comes to determination of so-called people who are eligible for the GOAT debate? And overall, how do you see this debate evolving? Are there any personal favorites of yours in a certain sport that you're looking forward to? Okay, this sport, these are the few players that are coming up that are very going to be very interesting. There are going to be the few that are going to occupy our minds as much as something like Virat Kohli, Sachin Tendulkar, or a Ronaldo, Messi, or something else, right? So, what is your take? What is your final take on these? Arvind, do you want to? Sorry, Sandeep. Yeah.
No, no, Aravind.
Yeah, okay. I want to start off. I want to start off with what Sandeep said. When someone, I regard Sandeep as the goat in NLU Jodhpur, uh, because that basically pushed me to when he said that the goalkeeper is the one who should get the most credit. I think Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo, or maybe I don't know about Ronaldo because he's a different kind of person. He might be someone who actually enjoys the goat hullabaloo around him. It pushes him to achieve more. Exactly at this point in time, he'll be needing some confidence or some added swagger to perform more. After a point, because it happens in like regular sports and regular sports people. As you get into the late 30s, and in I think Ronaldo's case, he will be 40 next month. You need an added motivation, and motivation keeps dwindling as you age. So I'm saying that the people who might be in the goat discussion, I don't think they actually care about this goat thing. It's only the fans who actually care, and it's the narrative that like I said umpteen number of times in this podcast. It's what makes the sport sells. Anyway, so my take is that to goat as a concept for me, in a from a very purist perspective, shouldn't exist, because there is no I don't think there is a singular person who can be labeled as a goat across eras, across positions, especially in team football. I don't think it should exist, because it's a disservice to a lot of people, and it's a very myopic way of looking at things from only like a stats driven perspective. Because like you said, Gautam, the technology has changed. Like something like a Nike Vapor shoe would not have been sold in the 1950s or 1970s. They simply did not have a chance to crack those times, right? And uh, like someone like Carl Lewis, if he had a shoe like that, maybe he would have, as in, he would have got
The
the world
records.
record for sure. As in, maybe even the 9.6. The it is 9.5 something, right? 9.54.
5'8".
5'8". Yeah, 5'8".
Yeah, in Berlin or something when Bolt
Yeah.
cracked it. So that's why the technology has changed, sports science has changed, the recovery time has changed, and that's why you see someone like a lot of these people. Uh, we have seen Sachin getting burdened with a lot of injuries, like tennis elbow and a lot of these things. How many times have you seen someone like a Virat Kohli getting injured, or a Messi or Ronaldo or a Djokovic getting injured? No, that's purely because of that is a lot of that has got to do with recovery training and pre-match, post-match
Monitoring.
routines, the training regimes, and all that. And Uh, of course, Nadal was an exception because of the grueling way in which he played tennis. Ultimately, it's the injuries that did him, and it's also the style that paved way for the injuries, his playing style that also got him all the accomplishments. So I think he is an exception in that case. But the there are maybe I think there will be a time when it does come down the GOAT debate, but it's all got to do with favorites also. It's the goats that we basically say. We also have, maybe even if I say, there is, ideally it shouldn't exist, because from a purist perspective it shouldn't. But when you say someone like Messi or Ronaldo in that mix, can you actually put someone like Erling Haaland or Jude Bellingham or Vinicius Junior, Lamine Yamal? Can we Florian words do like, it doesn't really, somehow we don't see them reaching that stature. Maybe they won't, because these people have been playing football for more than Messi and Ronaldo have been playing football for more than 20 years, and a large part of those 20 years it's just been them in the discussion, and people still haven't got tired.
Yeah.
Maybe
At the
once
cost
they
of several
retire.
other players. That's the problem.
Yeah, yeah. Several other players. Of course, there were Iniesta. They played at a time when Zidane and Ronaldinho were still playing as well. Even when Ronaldo started off, there was a Luis Figo who was a superior figure, and now he has usurped them all. As in, usurped Luis Figo at least in terms of statistics and everything, because Portugal had never won international trophies until Ronaldo came into the picture. Anyway, but I think. Uh, it has primarily got to do with stats. Uh, but for me, I think there is a history will be very cruel to the young players,
Yeah.
because whatever they do, however great they will be, that will always be compared to the previous generation. And for a lot of people, genuinely believe that there will not be a person like Sachin in world cricket. Enter Virat Kohli, and there is now a huge discussion that,
Yeah.
but as in, of course, between Sachin and Kohli, there is it has created a divided opinion. I
Yeah.
think this will keep on going. That debate will keep on going. Someone will surely come. But I think in football especially, it has gone so far, the Messi Ronaldo debate. I don't think it will be really hard on these replacements, because it won't be about just winning a World Cup. Because if that was the case, uh, Mbappe should already get that title, right? As in, he should be in the mix. Is he in the mix? No. His performances, and yeah, this is something that we haven't touched. I would like to end with this. Right now, the youngsters also, the youngsters or the young players, they also consume Instagram. They see these comments, they are visibly affected. There's a lot more racial abuse on that's going on, and it does affect players' performances. A lot of these players' performances do get affected, and that happens at their peak as well. You see Mbappe's Real Madrid performance at the start getting affected by a lot of these comments. With a lot of I'm not saying that he saw Instagram and then you know then got affected with his performances got affected. No, but a lot of these things are in the mix when someone gets out to play. That was not the case before, and it will never be the
Correct.
case because sport doesn't allow them to behave that way. You can't be aloof.
Hmm.
It has to, and that is why right now there are a lot of sports psychologists, uh, along with nutritionists and trainers. There are a lot of sports psychologists who are also there, who without whom the performance will not be there. I can guarantee you
Yeah.
that, because that is it's a fact. The
Yeah.
psychologists travel with the team.
Yeah.
And I hope, from a purist perspective and being a sports fan, I hope that the GOAT discourse ends, but it's not going to be the case. It will be there in one form or the other, but
Hmm.
I don't think it will end. But I don't think serious people should, you know, take it in a serious way. That is
Yeah.
my 2 cents about this.
Sandeep, we'll end with you. What are your final
Yeah.
thoughts?
No, quick thoughts. Particularly because I don't follow sports that much as I used to. I'm not really concerned about where this is going. But still, uh, those who follow sports a little more seriously than the ordinary individual, I would like them to sort of be slightly more, broad in their analysis, and broad yet incisive. I don't know how to put it, but yeah, broad yet incisive in the sense broad on the field. As far as
Hmm.
a sport like football is concerned, broad on the field. Don't just look
Hmm.
at the last one third.
Hmm.
But yeah, if you look at the last one third, also look at the others in the different jersey, and to observe, the various different skill sets that are needed on the footballing field. uh, like these days, of course, I like that, how people assess Messi's off the ball walking, as they call it, the walking intelligence, and that's good. I mean, I like that approach, I mean, of observing all of that. But observations can move beyond Messi also. Others do it, have been doing it much. Such walking and observations, defenders do it always. So when Messi does it, it's not something exceptionally new. So that broadness, but yet incisiveness, can be brought in. That's the only thought. Yeah.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you so much for this insightful discussion. I think some of the key takeaways that I had is, of course, this debate is nuanced. Consider
What are your final thoughts, Gautam?
so my
Spike observe.
on a personal note, what I'm really looking forward to, because I'm following cricket quite regularly, is among the Fab Four, Fab Three. Can Virat Kohli make a comeback? I love a comeback story. We all do, I think, at some level. Can he come put himself back into the contention of being considered to be an all-time great? That is something I'm really looking forward to. And of course, the retirement of
Interesting.
bona fide legend, that is Ravichandran Ashwin. Who will be the replacement? How will the spin setup of Indian cricket team evolve over a period of time? These are the two things that I'm looking forward to.
Interesting.
Hopefully, and in the future, we get to say. I honestly think that in cricket, at least, we should consider each format as a different sport in itself: ODI, T20, and Test. And my what I'm hoping is we have legends in each format instead of an all format legends, like expecting an all format legend like a Virat Kohli. Perhaps Virat Kohli is one of the last. Hopefully, be the last, because I primarily think the skill set required to succeed in each format is different, and this administrator of the sport
Correct.
consider it that way and create legends or create great players capable of succeeding in each format rather than creating all format players and putting burden on people to keep adapting and keep changing their styles and eventually forgetting their actual original game. So that's something that I am looking forward to at least in cricket, to have format wise great players, and in specific example of Virat Kohli and replacement of Ashwin. These are my personal thought. But I think this discussion has been great. I mean, one of the few things I can recall is one. The GOAT debate has a lot more nuance. It has what role that you play in the sport, what position do you play, what era do you play. In the era that you play, how many contenders are there? The influence of technology, the marketability
Media.
of it. yeah, the media, the perception fueled by media, the marketability associated to it, the commercial aspects to
Recency
it.
bias also is there.
Recency bias, yes. How much televised it is, how much people are watching,
Yeah.
how much impressionable people are when it comes to a certain player. Their off field persona, on field persona, um, right? And I think this it's been a great discussion in the sense that we unraveled a lot of things. Of course, due to the limitation time, we couldn't go deep. I think it is very much possible that we can extend this for another hour, but we don't want to bore our audience. We have a very I
I
mean
think we are already bored.
I think if somebody has stayed till now, I think that they're very committed to this topic, and I thank you for them. I
Yeah,
thank you them for doing that. Again,
thank you.
Arvind, I pass on to you for the concluding plugin. You want to share what your thoughts? I mean, you want to conclude giving your podcast name and all.
Yeah, nothing else. Just wrapping it up. Thanks a lot, Gautham. Uh, I think we have more topics coming up. Like two topics are already lined up. I expect you to be there. I don't think without you it would be possible. And thanks a lot, Sandeep, for coming and contributing to this discussion as well. And the topics that are being lined up will be of interest to you as well, I think. So that is it. Everyone, thanks a lot for tuning in. This was season one, episode two of The Spake Ara'thustra, uh, the GOAT concept in sports. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gautam.
Thank
And
you.